good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting from Lagos, the nation's commercial nerve center, and I'm Jeffrey Ozongo.
Thanks indeed for joining us here on the program. I am Kelly Egiga. There's this debate and argument as to which is the most productive day of the week. Some argue it's Tuesday, some say it's Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly which is for you. But sometimes I just think it's the thing of the mind, you know. but I mean, I hear that argument a lot.
What is the most productive? Well, I leave
which is the most productive day of the week? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
I think every day is productive, in my view. The day you're working is productive. The day you take time to rest is also so that you can be productive on the days you're active. So for me, there is no day that is more productive than the others. But people may have their reason for placing this, that, or the other. Perhaps on Monday, you have a lot of clearing of the table to do setting agenda for the week. So that may be what people define. But I just feel that every day, it depends on how you run your life, is absolutely productive. Even the day you're taking a break so that you don't break down. It's important. Talking about breakdown, I don't know what is wrong with articulated vehicles breaking down on Kara Bridge.
I think it's literally about the expressway thing, not just Kara Bridge. I
don't know. Okay.
But there's something special about Kara Bridge and Otedala Bridge.
Yes, Otedala Bridge and Kara Bridge. As I was coming, I was driving down, I saw another vehicle. Fortunately, the traffic hasn't built. I hope it doesn't, so that the guys who move these vehicles can be able to move it as quickly as possible. But I think places like Kara Bridge, I don't know whether I've said it to Mrs. Kisha, who is the controller of works in Lagos and all of that. That place, in fact, at least significant portion in the township area of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we need to have, what do you call it, CCTV, as much as possible.
The Long Bridge as well.
That's what I'm saying. The significant portion of the township area needs to have CCTV so that they can monitor. I don't know whether they do. It took a lot of hue and cry to be able to even get lights.
Lighting on the bridge.
What do you call it? Street lights. Okay, street lights on the bridge. This maybe we call it on road light. I don't know. So these things are just common sense, and I don't know why common sense is very scarce in Nigeria sometimes. You just feel like, what is the big deal? They budget all these big monies. In fact, we're very critical of the Ministry of Works at some point because we saw there was in their books or in their budget, their line item, there was some money for SUVs or some vehicles, let me not call it SUVs, to the tune of, I think, 2 billion or so. All of that money, use it to build some of this infrastructure we're talking about. So I don't know what it is about Kara Bridge, Otedala Bridge, Long Bridge, the stretch of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that is so prone to accident. I think the authorities need to do something, especially now that the Yuletide is almost upon us, where there's going to be heavy traffic. But besides that, there's some good news. It's very rare sometimes we get good news. 24 girls, the Kebbi girls, have now been freed by the abductors. That's according to the presidency and confirmed by the governor of the state, Nasser Idris. Investigations are still on as to how that thing played out. But we're happy. I think this was supposed to be day 10. Or so, but eventually on day 10 or day 9, I'm not sure which of the day, we can now say that the girls have been freed. And we're grateful that the military did their work. We thank the president and everybody in the mix of all of this. But the big question we'll always continue to ask, how were they freed? It was very almost humorous when I was listening to Bayo Ononuga, the spokesperson of the president, saying that the security agencies contacted the bandits and then they freed them. I don't know what that means. Did they threaten them to say, okay, if you don't free these girls? So you can see the pictures of the girls. So how were they freed? The government, of course, the government would never agree they paid ransom. So let me not even waste my energy on that. What was done to free them? The more important question is, where are the abductors? Have they been killed? Have they been arrested? What exactly happened here? Because this is becoming one too many. Sometimes it looks like a coordinated chaos. So that's the latest. So the girls are back. We thank the president, we thank the military and everybody who was involved in this whole exercise. But we have more questions to ask because this has to do with human life.
Yes, Jeff. I mean, see, look at the videos there of these children, minors, you know, perhaps some are not even teenagers just yet, and they have had to go through the trauma of being kidnapped for over a week. This is indeed really very desperate times for Nigerians. And why we celebrate this cheering news is the fact that there are more abductions in Kwara State. So while we commend the government of the day, we commend and salute them. The governor says no ransom was paid, just like my colleague has mentioned. I mean, we cannot go into all of that, but we know it is possible, and we know that it is really very impossible, rather, for the government to just put a call across to the bandits who spend their monies perhaps to convey these girls on bikes and then
risk their lives,
and then you just make a phone call.
Criminals.
These same bandits who threatened and said, if you do not act swiftly, we will do this to these girls and all of that. Pay the ransom now. Is the same bandits that the government and the governor is insisting that no ransom was paid. But as I was going to say, while there's cheering news of the release of these girls, whatever happened is the fact that in Kwara State, Ekiti local government area now, more kidnaps occurred yesterday, barely how many hours when some others regained their freedom, I think on Sunday. We see that in Kwara State. In Kano State as well, about 9 persons or 8 persons were kidnapped. Yesterday we reported 12 persons kidnapped in Borno State, farmers. And here we go again, Kano and Kwara State back in the news, this time again not for good reasons. So look, I don't know who is fooling who here, but we cannot be deceived. Nigerians are not dumb people. I think that the government of the day needs to sit up and sit up really, really fast, because what we are hearing and seeing is that these are nursing mothers, pregnant women. Look, if you have someone who is a nursing mother in your life, or a pregnant woman in your life, if you have someone close, a relative, your sibling, your mother or something, and then the person is battling that biological process and then having to be traumatized by being kidnapped. I remember one security expert who some years ago maintained that he didn't believe in paying ransom until he was kidnapped, and then the narrative changed. Look, I'm not sure what this really means for these people right now, but I can imagine the pain, the agony for them and their immediate family. I cannot imagine what it means to go through this kind of experience. It looks like it's really going to be excruciating for these women, at least. I mean, I don't know how to say this, but I think the government should just come clean and stop trying to think they can fool or deceive Nigerians, because it is really sad. I was just taking a look at the numbers here about ransom paid in this country, and it's terrible. As at 2023, Northwest led the pack with 1.2 trillion naira paid as ransom in the North Central region. Of course, we know the rural areas and communities are most hit. 1.2 trillion naira. So when the government always insists that no ransom was paid, who is paying these monies? I remember when I had to go do a report in Calabar, the University of Calabar, where 3 students were kidnapped right inside the university premises, and the police claimed they were released. But when I spoke to those 3 students exclusively, they disclosed that their parents paid ransom. We can't keep doing this to Nigerians on a daily basis. Let's come clean. And for how long will we go on like this? The basic responsibility of the government of the day is to at least provide security for Nigerians.
Well said, Kelly. The truth is that my friend was kidnapped. In fact, we interviewed him on this show, and then not so long after, he was kidnapped. He spent 50 days in captivity. And I know how much was paid, because we're in contact with, I was in contact with the wife, and I don't want to go to details. Anyway, but so, whatever has been said, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that this has to stop. Yeah. That's why we're having the security experts. We're going to ask them some critical questions. That's why I was talking about what is going on. Is it just chaos? Is it coordinated chaos? Is it a weighed-off strategy? What exactly? Because I was just calculating from Kebbi to Kwara to Niger, total of over 300, almost going on 400. A quarter of that has now been released. When I saw the names, this is the first time I'm seeing at this scale, they are kidnapping pupils, primary schools.
Primary school.
primary school. No, something is going on. Yeah. Well, the president has said action is cutting up the forest as much as possible. Certain actions have been taken, but there's a lot more question. One question the government has to answer us is what happened to the people who are abducting these girls or these people? Whether they are bandits or terrorists, because me, I see all of them as terrorists. I don't care whatever name they go by. If you kill people, I don't know what else to call you. So whether they are bandits or terrorists, whatever name they go by, now that are they being freed? Did they regain freedom? Or were they, there's a word I'm trying to look for. What exactly happened to those bandits? What exactly happened to these terrorists? That is where the government has not answered us clearly. Because when I listen to Mr. Bayo Nonuga, the answer sounded like a joke to me. But we need to be able to be very clear on what exactly is going on. Human lives here, what exactly is going on. We're going to ask those questions until we find answers. But let's bring you up to speed what we're doing today on the program. And the first port of call is all of the security issues. It's never ending, and we don't know why. So from the abductions and the freedoms and all of that, well, our focus will be essentially on Kwara today on the program. Because in Kwara, in Ekiti local government, 38 people were captured or abducted and then later freed. 2 people died in the process of that attack. Hours after, another 11 were abducted. What exactly is going on in Kwara State? We will be explaining that issue today on the program. And of course, yesterday, the Monetary Policy Authority, met, that's the MPC, Monetary Committee of the Central Bank met, and they made far-reaching decisions. We're going to be looking at the state of the economy. Well, MPC has retained interest rate at 27% with an asymmetric corridor of +50, -450. What does all that mean? We'll break it down right here on the program with an economist. And then from there, we'll move on to that meeting that happened in Ibadan. Southwest governors taking measures. One of the things they were loud about is we can't wait for state police to come. Our forests have been overtaken. They are looking like safe corridors for bandits and kidnappers. Something has to be done. And they put together a fund. Well, the chairman of Dawn will be joining us on the program today on the program, right here on the Morning Brief. So that's the outlook as far as the program is concerned today. So it's packed with very serious conversation that I think you should be part of, and will always be a delight to have you on the program. But we'll be back in just a moment to bring you what the dailies are saying. Stay with us. Let's bring in Mr. Igor Akerega. Is a journalist and a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Mr. Akerega, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning, Geoffrey. Good morning, Kelly. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
I think let's get started with the New Telegraph. Literally all the papers are leading with the similar story, but let's see how we can pick through all of them. New Telegraph is leading with bandits strike again, abduct pregnant woman, nursing mother, 7 family members. Others in Kwara. Bandits strike again, abduct pregnant woman, nursing mothers, 7 family members. Others in Kwara. So a family of 7 are now with abductors. So the riders, 8 children, women in Kano. Tinubu orders security cordon of Kwara, Niger, Kebbi Forest calls for air land raids of bandits, I hide that, and more. What do you make of this development, Mr. Akerega?
Well, it's sad. It's a sad day for most Nigerians who will be watching us this morning. I'm personally not impressed. What we are faced with is some kind of melodrama, some kind of drama, where you just see people being kidnapped and then we are told they are released. It is only in Nigeria that you see this kind of things happening, and it does appear as if everyone is helpless. I feel very, very sad this morning. Nursing mothers, as you said rightly early in the program, pupils in primary school, sometimes even kidnap the disabled and they take them away. So basically, what that just tells us is that we are really in deep trouble in this country. We are in deep trouble. But again, I take it to the media this morning. I do not know why editors still use titles like bandit. You know, dictionary meaning of bandit and terrorist is very clear. What we are having clearly are terrorists taking over territories in Nigeria, kidnapping people, making all kinds of demands on government and on individuals and families. So these are terrorists. We should name them, give them the names that is appropriate for them. These are not bandits. Bandits are just some kinds of individuals who maybe do some staccato attacks and run away. They don't carry heavy weapons and face security forces and kill people, take people in large numbers and keep them in camps. So these are terrorists who are determined to challenge the Nigerian state. And so far, in my view, is the approach that the government is adopting in dealing with them is too cosmetic. It is like a handshake just across, somewhere passing in the back. Nobody's telling Nigerians, what is really happening. No proper communication as to how those who are kidnapped, those who are seized by these terrorists are released. For example, the MAGA girls, that the 28 MAGA girls, that were released, and then the ones in Kwara, in Kwara, how they were released. Also, the kidnapped citizens have been released. Now, were they rescued or released? There's a difference between rescuing people and releasing people. If there's a rescue, then it means there's a confrontation between the security forces and these terrorists. Now, if they are released, it means there is a negotiation. Something gave way. So is the government telling us that they paid these terrorists to release the abductees? The government needs to come clean. Yes, my former boss, Bayo Nanoga, he was my boss at the News Temple PME as editor-in-chief. He is strong-willed. He's a professional. I know Bayo Nanoga as a professional. A strong-willed individual who stood against, the Abacha regime. We were all mobilized at the time, the News Temple PM News. It was, those three titles led the struggle, supported the democratic forces, to chase the military away from the political space. But I'm surprised the kind of statements that Mr. Bayo is releasing now. He needs to come clean. He's a professional. Yes, he has a job to do, but in doing that job, Nigerians also deserve to know. You cannot compare, what Bayo is doing now with what somebody like Ruben Abati did when he managed the Goodluck Jonathan media. So Nigerians need more information. If the government negotiated with the terrorists, tell us that they negotiated and they were released. If ransom were paid, Nigerians should also know. The House of Reps is considering a bill. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Kalu, yesterday or so, mooted the idea of punishing political office holders who negotiate and pay ransom to bandits. Well, that's a 30 point, is the way to go. But it all begins with the government and ends with the government. The government has a duty to protect Nigerians, to secure lives and property. But if this same government is paying terrorists, to secure releases of Nigerians that are still from their legitimate places of business, legitimate places of education, we have a big problem in our hands. I also recall there have been issues of where are these terrorists getting their sophisticated weapons from? Now the answer is here. If indeed they are being paid billions of naira to secure release, then they have money to buy weapons, to even buy weapons that will probably be better than what the armed forces of Nigeria are carrying. We are still carrying AK-47 rifles, but I see GPMGs, automatic weapons, anti-aircraft guns, shoulder-held, weapons with these terrorists. That is extremely dangerous. We cannot continue to pamper these terrorists. It is time to declare full-scale war. I said it last week. I do not. Yes, the president has said he should cordon off the forest in Kwara, maybe Niger State, and maybe up to Kaduna and there. But that is not just enough. We should cordon off the entire forest, the entire borders, and declare war on this terror.
All right, Mr. Kerry, just let's stay with the New Telegraph for a moment. The rider there below the main rider, it says FG bans open grazing nationwide over rising insecurity. Chibok still under heavy taxation, terror, rain communities. So I mean, speak to this controversial issue around open grazing, which the federal government has put a ban on. Do you think this is the way to go? Does this solve the problem? Because the narrative and the arguments for herders, even the likes of Sheikh Gumi have argued that these people have their roots and now they've been taken over by development and all of that. Do you think a ban on open grazing perhaps will solve this problem?
That is a piece of good news. For me, it's a piece of good news. And I'm sure most Nigerians, particularly the farming communities, the agrarian communities from Plateau to Benue to Enugu, down to Niger State, which is even a food basket of the country. I mean, to be sharing news. This is too long in coming. This is the first thing we should have done. There's nowhere in the world where cattle are allowed to roam all over the place. Roam all over, even in Abuja, the city center. You see cattle everywhere. What kind of policy that the government will treat with a kid's glove to say cattle can roam everywhere? And then the herders themselves say that God has given them all the land to feed their animals. I mean, who does that? What kind of embarrassing situation is this? So it is a good development that the government is beginning to wake up. Cattle must be rushed, they must be kept in confined places such that it can minimize and reduce a conflict with farmers. You know, the Minister of Livestock, I mean, he's done the right thing. He has said that that can generate about 7 trillion naira in the next 5 years for the government. Yeah, which I believe in. We should be able to produce meat from cattle and all kinds of. So the ban on open grazing is a welcome development. I fully support it. Yes. And I'm sure most Nigerians will.
Yeah, let's switch to The Guardian. It states with Insecurity, Insecurity triggers rare APC dissent in reps amid fresh Kwara Kano attacks. I mean, you have spoken already about that. Maybe we should take a look at other riders there. Rising insecurity may push 35 million Nigerians into severe hunger in 2026. That's a warning from the United Nations. I'd like you to speak to this. And there's another writer there that Sani warns northern leaders against playing politics with insecurity. Let's see how we can do this perhaps in 2 minutes. The warning from Kaduna State Governor that the northern leaders shouldn't play politics with insecurity. Remember, there's a meeting scheduled for this Saturday where the northern governors are also going to meet and perhaps make their position known as regards insecurity in the country. And then plus this warning, which I think we should take seriously, Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, warning that this rising insecurity may push 35 million Nigerians into severe hunger. Mr. Kiriga.
No, absolutely. There is no two ways. No, the signs are all there, are all clear. Sometimes early this year, we saw food prices soar. That is because of also the spike in terrorism, where many farmers were killed across the country and people could not go to the farm. Benue State particularly, and Plateau State and Niger State. We saw all of that. So that is correct, that if the government does not need these states of terrorist attacks across the country in the board, deal with them appropriately, then of course we should be expecting that there will be limited production of food, and that is going to lead to hunger. There's no two ways about that. Now, with regards to northern governors, I think they are really part of the problem that we're having, in the country. I remember when Southwest governors introduced Amotekun, and the issue is what kind of weapons they will carry. Many northern governors, condemned what the Southwest was doing. The Southwest governors again have met yesterday again to move a fresh idea on how they can build security in the Southwest. That's what I think the northern governors will be doing. They have put a lot of pressure on the federal government. Indeed, the governors are the chief security officers of their state. There's a lot governors can do, to beef up security in their state. But many northern governors are really not doing anything. So the advice or the comment by Governor Sani is appropriate, because the northern governors will have to sit up, will have to mobilize themselves, organize themselves, pull funds together, and become the first line of defense before the federal forces can move in. So I agree with him.
I think well said. The northern leaders, especially the political elites, need to do a lot of soul searching and honesty to their people. Because whatever data you look at in Nigeria that is on the downside risk of that particular data, it points north. And it's not supposed to be. Northern people, a lot of great people, intelligent people, fertile land and all of that. So we really don't know what's going on. If you talk poverty, it's there. You talk about health issues, it's there.
Out of school children. Out of school
children. So whatever downside risks of numbers is always pointing north first. So the leaders have to be honest.
Quickly, I must add, you see, the North must de-emphasize religion. Because we must begin to tell ourselves the home truth. The North must begin to de-emphasize religion as a tool for development. I have not seen anywhere in the world, even in Saudi Arabia, no, they have not elevated religion to the peak such that it's almost become a statecraft. The northern political elites and leaders are using religion to deceive their people, you know, to blindfold them, maybe to make them amenable to control and all of that. And that is also part of the issue. English philosopher De Cleaver rightly posited that one is either part of the problem or part of the solution. So northern political leaders, particularly the governors, you know, must begin to de-emphasize religion. 12 northern governors who imposed Sharia on 12 northern states, and then others took a cue from there. There's a need to now de-emphasize this and focus more on education, development, digital education, ICT, AI. That's what they should be driving their people towards, and not to you know, taking them to malams and living in some kind of archaic path. And they tell you that grazing is a culture, it's a tradition that they cannot jettison. I do not agree. And most Nigerians, that is really at the root of the national crisis that we have. It is time to tell ourselves the home truth. We have, like you said, we have very intelligent people in the north, whether they are Fulanis or traditional Hausa people, very brilliant people. But these people, I get that if they can have access to governance. But that is really at the root of the national crisis that we have. De-emphasize, you know, archaic, traditional religious practices, such that we can embrace modern civilization, and that can also orchestrate, you know, productivity and development.
Yeah, Mr. Karega, this is the moment. I feel that this moment of intensity has presented us with an opportunity to be blunt, to be truthful, and to be brutally honest. And if we miss this, I don't know what else. But before we let you go, let's go to this Nigeria. Away from security, let's just highlight politics of PDP just by the side of that picture to the right. You can see PDP crisis. Court restrains Damagun Turaki, orders from obstructing Abdurrahman Ayanwu in their duties as acting chair and secretary. Orders INEC IGP to stop further interactions with them. The PDP crisis is getting to a ludicrous height. There's something I think the lawyers call stare decisis, where a decision has been made and finalized, especially by the Apex Court, yet we see lower courts assuming jurisdiction over issues of political party membership and leadership that they are not supposed to have, whether it's a state high court or a federal high court. So this is just becoming a messy situation. What do you make of this?
I think this is deliberate. The National Judicial Council is too silent on this. The body of benchers must have to speak up. The Nigerian Bar Association, it is time for them to intervene. This is legal profession that is on trial, where judges and justices appear to have gone berserk, delivering judges that is at variance with extant orders from a sister court, except a court is superior jurisdiction. I do not know why federal high courts, state high courts are running berserk. The PDP problem is becoming clear that what we are seeing is beyond what the eyes can see. I'm beginning to see indeed some interference coming from official quarter, because if that is not, why are the judges allowed to do what they are doing? You know, Turaki, you know, was elected in the Ibadan PDP elective convention, where others stayed away. For me, for those who stayed away, they have decided to leave the PDP voluntarily. Many of them have moved on to the ADC. Some have joined the ruling APC and all of that. I think the PDP should be allowed to breathe some air of relief. The judiciary, the court, are becoming really, you know, the Achilles heel of the PDP. It's a big problem. It has to be solved very quickly.
Yes, I'm sure we're going to mainstream that conversation very soon. This turning law on his head, as far as we see, with it, especially, is becoming too notorious with the lower courts. With the greatest respect to very fine judges we have still at that level, but the things are becoming embarrassing. Mr. Ego Akerega is a journalist and member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks.
All right, I'll take a break. When we come back, so the big news, Kebbi girls, the 24 of them that were abducted, they have now been freed or rescued. I don't know what language to use, but the most important thing is that they're back. And Kwara, while 38 were freed, 11 have now been they've been abducted. So in focus will be national security, but focusing on Kwara as well. Two gentlemen who are security experts will be joining us in just a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. Let's get things started now and head to our very first conversation. We're joined this hour by Mr. Ajayi Okosomi. He's a former police PRO and security consultant who joins us live now from Ilori, the Kwara State capital. Plus, on the program, live from South Africa, Mr. Oyekachi Adekoya also joins us live on the program, security consultant. Thank you indeed, gentlemen, for agreeing to speak with us here on the morning brief. Perhaps let's get the conversation started in Ilori, where Mr. Ajayi Okosomi is standing by. I'm wondering how you are receiving this news. In Kebbi State, sharing news of the release or escape or recovery or of the 25 girls. But where you are in Ilori and Kwara State precisely, there was another kidnap. There we understand nursing mothers, a pregnant woman was also kidnapped yesterday. How does this news come to you, and what's the mood like in Ilori where you are this morning?
Thank you so much. Actually, any such news comes with a very bad and awful feelings. Whether you are directly involved or not, we are talking about human beings, we are talking about children and mothers of people that were kidnapped by these bandits, as they are called. It is a very, very bad news, and it's something that is not normal in Kwara State. I've been in Kwara State for some time, and throughout my time in Kwara State, we have not had it this bad. But the government are trying their best, the security forces are trying their best, but it's not a news to be, to share about. It's a very wrong news to hear and to wake up to know that about, in the space of a week, 5, 6, 7 days, 2 type of kidnapping situation was reported. I think it is not a good news at all.
Ms. Adekoya, in South Africa as well, what's your initial assessment of this situation? I mean, Mr. Ajayi says the government is doing their best. Do you think that's the situation here? That's the case here? Do you think the government of the day is doing their best as well? Oyekachi, please.
Yeah, I don't think that the government is doing the best that can be done, but the government is making efforts, and the rescue release, as whatever connotation we want to give to it, it's a welcome development. Whether government paid ransom, I'm indifferent to it really, as long as the people are released. Now, you must understand that within the domain of statecraft, the government has to deploy all the tools within its means to achieve its stated objective. And this stop that government doesn't negotiate with terrorists, because the Americans say they don't negotiate with terrorists. Again, we must set everything in situational context. Just recently, we saw the head of HTS, the terrorist group, Al-Qaeda, variant in the White House, shaking hands with Donald Trump. And the White House press statement was that the president of Syria visited the White House. Nobody elected the man president of Syria. He's a known terrorist that had a $5 million bounty on his head. We've seen where then American government flew, according to reports by current president, over $500 billion in cash to Iran. So again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that let's be happy for the families. Let's be happy for fellow Nigerians who have been rescued, released, escaped. Let's deal from there going forward. Is the government doing enough? No. So what's the next step? What are we going to do about these people? How are we going to create conditions that do not allow these actions to fester and continue? What is the system we're going to put in place? From a systemic perspective, you can't seem to see the logic in how we're approaching a highly mobile, highly dispersed, highly motivated, highly capable force that is operating across the country simultaneously. So statements are not enough. We need to see a system that is as agile, that is as nimble, that is as capable, that is as resource, taking the initiative. So is the government doing enough? Sadly, no.
Mr. Onyekachi, in less than, I think if my data is right, in about 10 days or less than 2 weeks, to be fair, we've had 25 or 24, we've had 38, I'm talking about abductions. We have over 300, then we've had 11, and then we had releases in batches of 50, another 24, and all of that. The way it is looking like, I want you to help us, calm things down and help us understand what exactly is happening here. I gave those sequence for a reason. Is this a false flag to wade off American boats on our soil, more like a coordinated chaos to say we can handle this, or we're really in a crisis?
Godfrey, I like the fact that you are reeling data out, but if you do recall, we're on set sometime early this year, and I invited you, the both of you on set, to begin to notice Q4 of 2025 into Q1 of 2026, that you will begin to see kidnap of school children. You will begin to see an upsurge in kidnappings, in insecurity activity. I did also project us at that time that the cost of insecurity will take a toll on the president's, this current administration's presidency. And data is predictive. You're referencing data. This happens on the eve of every major election cycle. But when opposition moved early in 2025 to begin the move towards 2027, I said, hey guys, look at it, the polity is being heated up. And what will typically happen is that you see an uptick in crime. Number two, on the case of the Americans, I just like to look at data. Sometime last year, if you look at the posts from the US Embassy, there's been a sustained campaign against the Nigerian states, against the reforms. Just sequence it. We issued tariff, visa restriction to 3 months, coming like that in sequence, comments about the reforms are failing. It then crescendoed into the allegations of genocide. And then, so there's a campaign somewhere, just go to the US Embassy Twitter handle or X handle and sequence the activities going on there. That's on a parallel. The question as to whether this is a false flag operation, this is a very tired, lazy analysis of the situation. I always say that Nigeria is faced with a hydra-headed, wicked problem. It's a complex problem. Should we be concerned? Yes, we should be concerned. If you look at our near neighbor Niger Republic, Niamey is almost put into a fire pocket. Niamey is almost encircled. The government holds barely 2/3 of territory, if not over 1/3 of territory currently. The buffer between Nigeria and what's happening in Mali and Burkina Faso, we're losing it out. There's incursion from the northwest, northeast. Nigeria is clearly under attack. again, look at what the data is saying. We have flashes and skirmishes along major food belts, major food regions. If you have a country of 230 million people unable to feed itself and food becomes very expensive, what do you think will happen internally? So we have a number of issues that are beyond even the now, I will admit. However, I had said on the onset of this administration that this government will fail in insecurity if it continues on the same path of previous administration. Permit me to ask the question, what's the first law of madness? If you do the same thing over and over again, and then you are hoping for a different result, then again, you need to check your assumptions. We are not checking our assumptions. The military can't solve the problem. There's a problem. And let me round up by saying, should we be concerned? Godfrey, we have not reached yet the peak of the insecurity we are going to see. Following this cycle, look at 2014, look at the other previous years, these incidents will peak towards 2027 elections. And once the elections are decided, then the crime stats will begin to drop. So should we be worried? I'm just saying, look at the data and look at what the data is saying. Look at the data against government's efforts and ask yourself, do you think the government is doing enough to, to change the narrative? The electric bulb was not created from continuous improvement of candles. So these small tweaks here, small tweaks there will not solve the problem. We are behind the curve.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well said, Mr. Adekoya. Let me take it to Mr. Okasomi. Mr. Adekoya has painted a very green picture, and it's very disturbing. And as you see, just remember that before the 2015 election, those Chibok girls, a lot of them still not out, some escaped, some have died, some were freed. So it's a mixed bag of whichever side you're looking at. And now this is happening in your state, Kwara, and you've been in the force, so you understand this as clearly as possible. So 2 questions in one. Do you think that politics is playing out here as part of the mixed bag? Because as Mr. Adekoya said, it's hydra-headed. So there are so many angles or tentacles, if you will, and all these tentacles are relevant in the analytics to be able to have a solution. Do you think that there's a strong correlation between elective years or election years and what is playing out now, starting pretty early? And from an intelligence point of view, how should we navigate this? Because I see it as crude politics in Africa, especially in Nigeria, that politicians, if we agree without conceding, we use insecurity as a means to discredit a government. Mr. Adekoya.
Yeah, actually, if you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, you know that, like my other colleague on the other side had just said, if you look at it, about 70% of what is happening now is the politics based. It is as a result of the coming election, like what my neighbor and my colleague was saying. You can imagine that Nigeria, because of our dysfunctionality in the area of governance, we have a lot of challenges in the area of governance, in the area of dispensation of justice. All this culminated in what we are experiencing today. We know in 2014, there was stories, going on that made the rounds then that some political party imported some, mercenaries, some fighters to Nigeria to confront if eventually the last administration refused to hand over government by way of maybe winning an election or so. And at the end of the day, the opposing party then won the election, and these people were left. And that has given some set of politicians another way of trying to struggle to win an election. That is exactly what we are seeing now. Like what my colleague there rightly said. The political will by the government to deal with this issue from the roots is also contributing seriously to what we are experiencing. You can imagine we are saying banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, or, confronting us. In the same vein, you discover that people who claim to be repentant, who claim that they have, decided not to be dissident any longer, are now brought to the, to the public claiming to be de-radicalize them and reintegrate them into the society. According to the stories we're hearing, some of them were even injected into the military, and we expect such people to be loyal to the government.
All right.
It is not possible. And the judgment by the government, the justice system is not doing what is expected of them. A crime, in our constitution, there are punishment for crime. Whether you repent or not, there are documented punishment for a particular crime or any other crime committed. Whether you have repented, you have said you are no more interested in it, then it's fine, you'll be welcome, but you must enjoy your punishment before being forgiven. But as a situation where you arrest some kidnappers, you arrest some bandits, you talk to them, you allow them to go, and you feel nothing will happen, just like what has been happening today. Yeah. We've been seeing on social media, we've been seeing images.
Mr. Akoswami, bandits are. Yes. I mean, you've painted that picture so that we can squeeze in as many questions as possible. I'm just looking at the map of Nigeria now, and I'm seeing that when you look at that map, Kebbi, some were placed here, and then there's Niger State, and then there's Kwara State, where we've seen these attacks simultaneously in the last 10 days or so. So let me take this question to Mr. Adekoya. What exactly is it about Kebbi, Niger, and Kwara states? Because I'm not sure this is a coincidence. Look at the map if you can take a look at it. So there's Kebbi, and there's Niger, and there's Kwara. What is it about these three states interconnected, but outside our shores, we see somewhere that we have this boundary with Benin Republic. I'm not sure there have been reports of these kind of mass kidnappings in Benin Republic. Why are we seeing these kidnappings and attacks in Kebbi, in Kwara, and in Niger State?
Yeah, let me also say, because I know we are pressed for time, but on issue of national security like this, when you call us, give us time to talk about the issues. Don't press us into these things. It's just not working. We all know there's the Alagamo forest that belts even Kaduna, Niger, all the way. So that's the forest region from where people can operate under the cover of the what do you call it now? Of the trees, of the forest, you know, of those roots that the bandits know to operate. Again, another thing is that law enforcement are not magicians. You need the mobility because of the topography of the place. Be able to move into those places, move in safely and move out safely. We've seen the killing of the sad killing of the Brigadier General in the Northeast. Well, part of the problem is equipment. You don't have the right A vehicle, you don't have the right B vehicles. Logistics is everything. Logistics, supply, communication to the fighting troops, very, very important. So we say they move from here to here unchecked. In the Kebbi case, when the attackers came, the police said when they assessed the situation, it didn't make sense to engage because engaging would have been sudden death. The next thing we said was, how did the soldiers disappear? Where did they go to? The soldiers, in my opinion, did the right thing. They assessed the situation, they got intelligence, they judged that if engaging will mean loss of life and equipment without achieving any strategic objective, doctrinally, the soldiers are allowed to bid a tactical withdrawal for them to regroup, to reamass, and then launch a counteroffensive. So basically, it's my assessment that the soldiers did a tactical withdrawal. So there are issues that are beyond law enforcement. Look at the police. When was the last time the federal government decisively invested in the police? Without the state government invested in police, the police will be flat on its stomach, can't move. We're in Nigeria where the police stations are getting allegedly 10,000 naira a month to fuel. 10,000 naira a month. When you have the police budget, there's nothing for capex, significant for capex. And we say, why is the police not able to police? Well, in Nigeria, when you say, come and talk about insecurity, you are going to call a retired military person whose duty is to fight war, not ensure public order, public safety. And then we're wondering why the whole mass of the society is chaotic, because there is no framing that ensures public safety and maintains public order. It is not the military that ensures public order. It is a criminal justice system that is well enforced, well policed by a properly resourced, well-motivated police force. So there is nothing in our national security vocabulary that talks about proper policing. It's happening in Kebbi. send the military. It's happening in Benue, send the military. When you leave Kenya, it's happening in Abia, you send the military. Now, we have over-domesticated our military. Even Niger Republic has no regard for the Nigerian military because our military are now, internally oriented. So the issues are quite much. It's not about the forest. I just want to round up to say, it's not the forest. It's a bigger problem. The problem is Mr. President. He is trying to do the savior of Nigeria. You cannot save Nigeria as one man. The state governors must become active participants in internal security. We are overdue for state police. Let's start the conversation from there first. So we don't have time, I know. Let me stop at this because we can't exhaust the problem. We can't exhaust the solution. Just suffice to say, Mr. President, if someone is listening from the office, you will fail. We will fail as others has failed if you think that from Abuja, you can solve all the problems of Nigerian internal security as one man. No, It has to be the 36+1 plus the president addressing this issue together. So we are moving as a force. At the same time, leaving no hiding space or place or chance for people to come back and filter and operate.
All right.
For me, that's the way to go.
Let's bring in Mr. Akosome to the conversation as well. I'm glad that we had that map there. You want to respond to that question as well? Geographically, what exactly is this thing about Kebbi, Niger, and Kwara states? Plus, perhaps, I'm not sure what you're hearing. I mean, you're a former PRO of police, so Mr. President has ordered that your colleagues should be withdrawn from VIPs. Is that the reality on ground now? What are your former colleagues saying to you? Because this is part of the problem where a VIP has about 12 to 15 of you surrounding or protecting him, while Nigerians, the rest of us, we are left, to our fate.
To start with, Kwara State is located in the particular position where we have both internal and external boundaries. We have, for example, the Niger Republic, we have a boundary with Nigeria with, Kwara with the Republic of Benin. Then we have a vast ungoverned forest between Kwara to Niger, Borogu local government, down to Kebbi, even in that forest too, you can from there get to Kogi, get to Kaduna, and all those places. Those are the reasons why this thing is heavier on the side of Kwara State, talking about the movement of this miscreant in the forest. Then talking about the issue of the president's directive that policemen should be withdrawn from VIP. I think it's a very right decision to be taken, that has been taken by the government. The only thing is, how is it going to be adhered to? Because every IG that comes in while I was in service, the first thing they do is to say they are withdrawing policemen from VIPs, but at the end of the day, you see all of them there. So if the police authority is going to adhere strictly to that president's directive, I think it's going to be okay, because I think the Nigerian police population is not up to 400,000 or even 400,000, but by a quarter of that are, deployed to private individuals, protecting private individuals and leaving the general public, and using the same salary, the same funding by the government to fund policemen that are supposed to be serving the public, serving private individuals. So I think it's a very good decision. And it is even one of the reasons of indiscipline in the Nigerian police force, because you discover that these people that are attached to political gladiators, to rich people in the society, always fight for the promotions of those people attached to them. You see somebody, being ADC, being PAD, getting 2-3 promotions ahead of his mates that are really doing the work on the field. Apart from even promotion, they are exposed to a lot of advantages that the main people working on the field are deprived of. So it is good. Let them come. And most of them don't even know how to do the normal police work any longer. There are some of them. By the time they use all those gimmicks to get to a very top rank, they'll be struggling to head the command. And by the time you put them to command, you see they can't do what the people that have gone through the normal policing are able to do. So I think it's a very good decision by the federal government. And I think the federal government should also ensure that this directive is strictly adhered to. Not that you see some of them, okay, come back to the command. By the time they come back, you see them being redeployed, and sometimes you see them appearing in mufti, because they don't want the people to know that they are the same people. The government should ensure that this directive is strictly adhered to. That's my own opinion on it.
We've segued into another part of the conversation, but we just have about 3 to... we'll segue into another part of the conversation. We'll have like 3 to 5 minutes. Mr. Adekoya, I know you don't like short time, but we have to manage. It's talked about personnel audit in one fell swoop. I had a conversation with someone yesterday on my show in the afternoon, and the person was very blunt. So let's talk about personnel audit at the very, very top. 2 governors are ministers of defense, whether state. We have Mr. Badaru, I think, and then Mr. Matawale, the former governor Matawale. We know what played out in Zamfara when he was governor. So should the president begin to redeploy, fire when it comes to that space? What do you make, Mr. Adekoya, as we begin to wind down? Okay.
So yeah, you're very right. There's no window dressing the issue. The buck stops at the table of Mr. President squarely. If he's going to hire fire, it's at his discretion, because ultimately he's the one we're going to hold responsible. Now, to the presidential directive, it will not work. It's like when we banned the importation of food, we did not provide an alternative. The Nigerian GDP is protected. Over 90–80% of it is protected by private arrangements. Are you going to take out police from the banks, from the oil and gas sector, from manufacturing, from truck, from what are you going to do? We're approaching a festive period where insecurity is high. So when you say you are going to withdraw, what would then happen to those people, who are high profile? What alternative are you creating? You say they should go to the NSCDC. The NSCDC don't have the personnel. As of today, we've not paid attention to the NSCDC in the last 15 years in terms of resourcing them, even equipment or even recruitment. So you say go to the NSC. That's not an alternative. What we should have been doing is look at Kenya, look at South Africa. Withdraw the police, license private security companies to carry arms, limit their arms, service pistols, whatever it is you give to them, let people pay for their security. That would have been a better alternative. And then you must face it. You can't do it in one fell swoop. And then you go ahead with your personnel audit. Godfrey, I will stop because of time, but the president is not being properly advised. His directive is a political statement, by my assessment, to say, see, we are on the side of the masses. That is a political statement. It cannot work practically, not in November, not in December, because the crisis you will create will be more than the insecurity you are managing. You will have a political crisis. There will be a crisis even in the economy, because without security, businesses cannot thrive. Supply chain cannot be protected. So where do you begin to implement this directive? In this short notice? Not possible, no alternative. Not properly thought out, it will not work.
I do not want to press you further. I don't know whether you answered it about whether they should fire the ministers of defense or not. The reason I'm pressing down that question...
The question is, should we fire the president himself?
No, the president can only be fired by... The president can only be fired by election or by impeachment or by his resignation. I don't know which one you're recommending. But I'm
I'm recommending the National Assembly to rise up to do the job. Invite Mr. President to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly has oversight function over the executive. So it's not the minister. Somebody hired the minister. Why should did I vote for a minister? With due respect to the honorable ministers, I don't have any business with them. Not even with the IG, not with the service chiefs. We voted Mr. President. He said he knows the job is tough. He will get it done. He campaigned on it. That's a campaign promise for which we pay his salaries, is a monument and not a compliment of what he's getting. Talking as a Nigerian person first.
All right.
You are employed to do a job. I mean, if you run a business, Godfrey, and the person you employ is not getting the job done, will you fire him or not? So if the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, is the representative of the Nigerian people who employs Mr. President, they have every power to invite the president to the hallowed chambers of the National Assembly and, put the questions to him. And if they are not satisfied, they can file impeachment proceedings if they have the guts and the will to do it, I would add.
I like the part of the guts.
Gentlemen, we have to leave it here, and we have to leave it here. I mean, so many questions begging indeed for answers. But, well, Mr. President has ordered a sweep of the forest. I'm not sure how that is going to play out, because this country, geographically, we have forests virtually in every state. So I'm wondering, now that the focus is now Kwara State, how about the other forests in other parts of the country? Are we also going to pay attention to those forests as well, or do we wait until there is an attack before we now get to react? Because that's the part of the criticism that Mr. President has had to swallow for the past 2 years now, based on his actions and decisions. But most thank you indeed for your time on the program. As always, Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya, live for us in South Africa, security consultant, and then from Ilori, the Kwara State capital, Mr. Ajayi Okasami also joined us live on the program, former police PRO and security consultant. Gentlemen, thank you indeed for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so from Nigeria's security sector to the economy, the MPC retaining, of course, that the rates are 27%. Is this perhaps a political move? What exactly are the consequences for the average Nigerian? We're back in just a moment with analysis and perspectives. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's talk economy. Dr. Paul Alaje is our guest right here in our Lagos studio. Dr. Paul, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Dr. Paul is the chief economist at SPM Professionals. Let's begin with the numbers. The MPC has finally met, and the MPR retained at 27%. And you see all the CRR, the liquidity ratio, of course, the asymmetric corridor seemed to me like, don't come here, go that way, expand the economy on plus 50 minus 45, 450 in terms of basis points. So just help us interpret the meaning of the decision of the MPC yesterday retaining the interest rate.
Okay, before the decision were taken, three things were possible. One is to increase rate. The second one is to reduce rate. The third one is to hold rate. Many people think there was no decision because MPC held rates. It's actually one of the possible decisions. For many analysts, one would have thought that MPC would reduce rates, which was a decision. But what everybody agreed would never happen was to increase rates. Why? Now, why are we taking this decision? Nigeria uses inflation targeting, and MPR will help us to target the kind of inflation we want to have. As of March, inflation was as high as over 30%, I think nearly or above 34%. But when the numbers for March, April were reported by the National Bureau of Statistics, we had adjusted the base year. Then after that, we saw inflation drop by significant 10%. However, the NBS boss has told us that the reason for this reduction does not necessarily mean prices has reduced on the average by 10%, but because Nigeria is rejigging the basket, that was why we have 10% reduction in inflation. So that may not have direct impact. Now we have watched this number from April, May, June, up to November. And between September and October, we have seen a 200 basis point reduction from 18.02% to 16.05%. That is huge, that is significant. So if we have that kind of reduction, one would have expected that, ordinarily speaking, what MPC should have done is to also cut rate. And I think that was what was in the mind of many at the time. And I have such thoughts too. So, but when you look at it, what is really driving reduction in inflation? There are several things, but three majorly. One is stability that we have seen. And by stability, we need to look at what is happening to our reserve. Our reserve is over $44 billion. We have not done that, in the last 3, 4, 5 years. We've seen that major improvement in the reserve. Number two, what is happening to what has happened? What has the reserve helped to do? Well, it has achieved stability of naira. Up until recent, now Nigeria was declared a country of particular concern, because that's also had implication in the decision yesterday. In the previous MPC, there was no such comment or designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. So Nigeria, NPC could reduce. But now that Nigeria is third country of particular concern, what happens to exchange rate? For 1,430 naira to the dollar, we saw as of yesterday, 1,453. There are some marginal increase in what exchange rate was. I don't know if that has improved or reduced. So that on one side. On the other side, we also saw that some items, some food item has reduced, no doubt. Even though real estate and cost of rent increased, that's household rent increased, cost of transportation has not significantly also reduced. But most importantly, Nigeria, like Ghana, enjoy what we call the base year effect. When you change the base year of your inflation to a year that is not necessarily with economic prosperous, make the economy to become prosperous. You are going to see reduction in inflation when you are comparing that with an improved year. So clearly speaking, 2025 were relatively better compared to 2023-2024 because those were when the policy were originally made. One is subsidy removal, secondly, flotation of the currency. Since that time, I think Nigeria has since gone back, Nigeria has since embraced managed float, unlike absolute flotation, which many of us condemn because of the kind of economy that we have. Our economy cannot run purely on, what do we call it now? Demand and supply, and say that government will do nothing.
So are you saying that we're kind of defending the naira smartly when it's necessary?
That's the best thing. That's what all nations do. All nations that have studied, that are prosperous. Okay, let me ask you, UK in 2020, 2021, 2022 had pounds devalued badly. How come the pound found its way back to that point? Why is it that anytime you saw UK pound have issues, it will always go back to the same position? Why is it not going back to the position that Kenya shillings always find itself, Nigeria naira find itself, South African local currency find itself, Ghana cedi? Why is UK always going back? Because you have to be tactical. See, currency exchange is everything. I understand that Nigeria has badly managed economy because of printing of currency that we saw under ways and means, trillions of naira pump into the economy without putting them in investment. If this money had gone into infrastructure or there were money that we have earned, it might be another kettle of fish. Now, still on the reasons why, the implication of holding rates. It has a number of implications. So maybe central bank have thought of all of those things, and I mean Monetary Policy Committee have thought of those things. Now we have new set of heightened insurgency, and we call it durable disorder. Nigeria is not the only country facing durable disorder. And what do we mean by durable disorder? We have seen, insurgents having that boldness to come on social media, to even reveal their faces. It's scary. Yeah. But Nigeria is not the first country. We've seen that in the Middle East, in some part of the Middle East. We've seen it in some part of even Africa, where insurgents reveal their faces. They are so emboldened. But I am happy that at least some of the children that were kidnapped, we've been able to recover some. And I know that authorities, the Nigerian military, Nigerian army, and the Nigerian government is also trying to bring back some of these children. And I think that I think that in ending this, it's important for us to go all out in protecting the sovereignty. So while they might have to consider all of this, it might be a volatile season to say you want to reduce rates or you want to increase it. Well, whether that is the best decision or not is a different question, because this has implication on private sector, which means cost of borrowing will still be relatively high, compared to what many would expect, that if MPC reduces MPR and maybe one or two other parameters, that may make cost of borrowing to be cheaper. And when you reduce cost of borrowing, what that will mean is that it will help to increase growth. There will be expansion in the economy. That perhaps is what many may be expecting. But when you look at the reality of now and what has happened in the short space of time of about 1 month, then you know that you cannot totally fault MPC for holding rates yesterday.
Okay, so I believe that there is some sort of politicking as regards these numbers. That's what I believe in. The last time we had you here, I know I tried to put you on the spot, and you say you have some friends in government. Let me ask you, as an economist, when you look at the numbers, do you believe those numbers? Because you've said clearly here that some analysts and experts believe perhaps it should have been reduced or increased. So, but do you believe that number? Do you think there's nothing perhaps unconnected with the fact that we are building up to an election year in just a few months.
And we need to make the number look good. So I can help you ask the question directly. See, I'm going to answer you really very direct. Why, you see, for most people, most Nigerians, what NPR is does not really matter. For most Nigerians. But for those of us in research, for academia, for people in the markets, when I say market, I mean capital market and all those, they need to know, because if NPR, we have impact on the banking sector, it will have impact on our financial system. I think that's the right phrase to use. It will have direct impact on it. Now, are we saying that this number are by design or by nature? So you need to look at the two extremes. When inflation number was reduced, many people felt they've lost confidence. So this is what Nigerians need to know. With the new base year, the numbers are real, because we have changed the base year. With the new base year, the numbers are real. And for those watching us all over Nigeria and all over the world, if you're a woman, chances are high that you have checked mirror or your mirror in the last 24, 48 hours. The numbers, the statistical number of a nation is the mirror of that nation. So because we change it and it's not reflecting absolutely in the life of people that inflation has halved between March till now, that is why people have that concern. It is not necessarily because we just want the number to look good. It is so because we change the base year. Now, should Nigeria change the base year? Nations change their base year every 5 years, some every 10 years. It is not wrong. What may give us challenge is the year we chose. The year we chose is a year that economic activity was generally weak. So if you have chosen a year that economic activities is generally weak, when you now have little improvement, it will be magnified. I don't know if you follow that. It will look as though things are so good, but they may not necessarily be as good. That is why when people check their personal inflation as to what they experienced before and what they're experiencing now, they look at the number moving down so sporadically, but they are looking at their life, that the inflation numbers, for them, the experience is not moving down so sporadically. But we're going to get to all of this by April next year, where we will now be dealing with the same base year, comparing the same thing, because now we are comparing new base year with the old base year. It's like we have shifted the goalpost. So you cannot say a striker that's shot about 2 meters or 5 meters away, to go to another pitch and be shooting at about 10 meters or 15 meters away. It's not absolutely the same thing. So you might not do that comparison very well. So that is why things are not, the numbers is not agreeing. It is not necessarily because we want things to look good. Now, yesterday somebody asked me that, does that mean that the projection of Mr. President of 15% inflation at the end of the year, maybe that is what we walk to the answer? I said there are two different things. When the Mr. President said that when he presented the budget, it was old base year. If you use that number today, inflation will still be around 27, 28%, if you are using the old base year. But we are using the new base year. Whether they had a talk behind, that budget was presented, I'm not privy to that. But when you are using the new base year, I can tell you that inflation may even get to about 15, 14% at the end of the year. But does that mean that quality of life would improve between beginning of the year till now? It's not going to be in the same volume or in the same space as we have seen inflation reduce. But I must also acknowledge that some food items, because we also pick numbers in the market, some food items has reduced, even though not all, but some that have reduced must be mentioned and must also be recognized.
The food elements in the Koi Cup, which is about 13 divisions, has almost, it was about 51%. Yes. They reduced it about 40-something and then added some to restaurant and all of that, which I've always argued against most of the time. But there's a part I would like you to speak to. Of course, I know why Kelly was asking that question, because when the elections are coming on by December, when the APC will start talking, they'll say, we'll bring it down to 15. And we brought it down to 15.
That argument will not be right.
No, of course.
That argument will not be right, because the base year has no effect.
Yeah, I understand perfectly. So it's people like you and I that are correct to say, no, it's not the same base year. But politics, anything that works works. You can't argue with politicians when it comes to this thing. So we'll leave that to the realm of politics. But what I'm interested in, I think we're speaking with the DG of NECA, And we want to reconcile these numbers with the reality of the market. As you said rightly, financial market responds to numbers. Of course, the exchange rate also is, because I know that, for instance, in other clime, as soon as you cut rate, the currency gets weak, at least on the instant, yes, because you're expanding the economy. So people will go to where they have where they have better interest on whatever investment, whether it's a long-term bond and all of that. Where I'm going to with this is the NECA boss, we were talking here, and he said to the fact that inventory to the tune of about 1 trillion still held up in warehouses, but we're seeing all these record numbers. Can you help us reconcile all of that? Well, it looks like purchasing power has dropped, inventory still stock up, yet inflation is coming down.
See, when you apportion the impact of real economic activity on inflation, like I said, inflation will be around 27–28%. But when you look at base year effects, what you are comparing with, inflation will give you 16.05%. To that extent, I cannot fault the Bureau of Statistics because they've made it open that we have changed the base year. That announcement came from the Statistician General that said that, see, what we are comparing before has changed. So people should not think that the prices will change. So, and I respect the position of the NECA boss. What he mentioned is correct. Purchasing power has been affected. Why? Because when you look at income, the movement in income and movement in costs, they are completely at variance. The minimum wage is about 70,000 naira, and we have also seen that the number released by World Bank regarding the number of people that became poor, and World Bank called it the effects of reforms that is necessary for Nigeria to go through those effects. I think they quoted 139 million people, according to the World Bank. So, but when you look at this, these are part of population we call Nigerian market. Because when you put everybody together, about 230 million people, you say is the market size of Nigeria. But of that 230 million people, World Bank is saying that perhaps 139 million are living below the poverty line of $2.15, and even said that a number a bit below that are living in absolute poverty. So here is it. Even though we have these numbers, huge numbers, and they are not able, the effectiveness of this number to demand is really low. So how come inflation is reducing? The base year effect. Base year effect is the main reason why inflation is reducing, but not the only one. Stability of exchange rate. And I must give kudos to the central bank governor, because we have been able to move up our foreign reserve significantly. We have nearly a year cover now, which gives confidence to investors. Now, what if central bank has reduced interest rate? If they have reduced interest rate, it has its own side effect too. Investors who would have preferred to buy Nigerian bond and Nigerian bills, foreign investors, might feel that, oh, the interest is going to reduce. And they have option to go to another market. Those that bought before might also go to another market. In order for us to keep building the reserve might be the reason. But that has side effects. Because when the interest rates are high, it crowds out employment. See, economy is an interesting course because it's a course of trade-offs. You cannot eat your cake and have it. So it's either we say we want to build reserve or we want to expand the economy.
So in simple terms, it's either I like when we talk numbers and technical stuff, we give the benefit of doubt to what we call frame of reference, general frame of reference. So it's like saying, let's make our house very beautiful, even though we don't have enough food inside the house. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, in a way, yes. Even though we don't have enough food. But you see, if the fiscal authority and trade authority can do their part, fiscal authority, you see, I mentioned something yesterday. We hear monetary authority perhaps every 2 months. They come out, they tell us this is what we are fixing rate. We want to expand the economy, we want to contract the economy. Fiscal authority, and fiscal authority is not limited to federal government. Fiscal authority even has government inside. That's the government of states and federal. We only hear them once a year when they present the budget, because that's the biggest budget.
They are doing it now.
They are, okay.
A lot are
presented yesterday.
So when they present it once, then what happens to trade authority? We even speak less of trade authority. So until we have that interaction, among the three legs that drives the economy. CBN will be they might be meeting, they might be talking, that is not in public domain. But for those of us who watch the economy, it's important for us to know so that we can also put our commentary in perspective to say that this is what fiscal authority is doing. Because at the end of the day, when we see the numbers, we are going to plot them, we are going to put them on our model and check whether this is rightly affecting our economy or is not rightly affecting our economy. So sometimes economists try to design, they try to present their nation's number as though they are good. If they work towards it, they will achieve it.
Okay.
But if they don't, unfortunately, it might take them back.
Yes. And that leads me to my next question, really. I mean, you and Jeff are enjoying all of the technicalities. But see, for the average Nigerian man, we don't care about these technicalities. What we want to hear and see is that we have value for the small money that we have. What we want to hear and see is that we can afford 3 square meals and we don't have to plan, or we don't have we don't have to have headaches when our wives ask us for monies. So let me ask you, because you have mentioned that economists, people are the watchers of the economies of the nations. What's your projection for our GDP growth outlook, for instance, for 2026? And then, Mr. President, it's been 2 years down the line or more since he said subsidy is gone. And he puts millions of Nigerians where we are today. Are there better days ahead? That's what Nigerians want to hear. Are there better days ahead? Are we coming to a point where, since they say there's light at the end of the tunnel, we've been waiting, we're in that tunnel. When will we get to the light?
We'll see the switch very soon. So that's a question you've asked. And your question speaks to the essence of economists. In fact, why we have gone to schools of economics, whether in Nigeria or abroad, is the question you asked. Any economist that cannot speak directly to those questions has failed ab initio. The reason why we exist is that question you asked. What will be the impact on the people? Living standard is the most important question every economist are always eager, and I will respond to it. You see, the nature of economies vary. Nigeria economy is completely different from an American economy. It's completely different from the Chinese economy. Until we build our economy to reflect the numbers and our growth rates, we will keep managing the number and arranging it to appear in certain ways. What should we do? Manufacturing. You see, when we focus all our energy on manufacturing, and by that I mean the state government and the federal government, first we need to have coordination. For instance, what are the things that we import the most, that we consume the most? Can we produce them locally? People say that, you know, some economists have said, which of course, there is a South Korean economist that have actually countered that argument, that let us have comparative cost advantage. If Nigeria can produce crude, don't worry, don't have refineries. Let countries that have refineries keep refining. There are a lot of assumptions that are wrong. I'm happy that a South Korean economist have come to say that this is making a developing nation remain poor. Look at Dangote refinery. He has defiled it. Do you know that some of the gains we have in our reserve, and the gains we have in our GDP is because of Dangote refineries? So when you see some association trying to fight it, I hope they know the meaning of what they are doing. I just hope they know. I'm not supporting monopolies, and many people know my position. So if you want to have other refineries, please, can you support them to have, instead of fighting him or fighting the refinery? Because the benefit, even if you are not buying PMS from him, the benefit is far-reaching to you, to why you can still have exchange rate at that number. People say, well, why does exchange rate not matters? It matters because 50% of your urban life is imported. So does that mean that Nigeria don't create jobs? The answer is no. We create jobs. But guess where our jobs goes to? Where you got your eyeglasses from, even though you might have bought it in a mall, in Ikeja, or in a shop in Ikeja. But where did they get it from? They had imported it. Their suit, all our suits, perhaps are imported. Yeah. Our buttons are imported. Your wristwatch are imported. Everything we have are imported. And Mr. Geoffrey, I know your name, but if his name is Tokumbo, that means you are also imported into Nigeria. So what does that mean? If we keep importing, we are giving jobs to people abroad, either in China or in India or in London. How do we take the job home? That's where we need our governors. That's where we need our president. That's where we need our legislatures. We must look at it. These places that insurgents are taking over, as their own, because we have to connect this. I mentioned durable disobedience. I mean, this durable disorder, you know, when I started speaking with you this morning. Can we convert some of these places to farm and set up processing plants in all of these places? Provide soldiers. Now, when there are no activity, after a while, the soldiers will be tired. They want to retreat, and insurgents will go back. Can we start taking them over one after the other and making them production zones, production center? What will that do? 1, you are going to see reduction in insecurity. 2, you are going to see improvement in employment. 3, you are going to see reduction even in inflation. 4, you are going to see expansion in your economy. 5, you are going to see major growth. You are going to see development. You now see that lead to export. By that way, people will not ask questions about living standard. People will know that we have created a standard that will make quality of life improve, and Nigeria will not be majorly a country designated as a nation of country of particular concern, but a nation that is helping the rest of the world.
Dr. Paul, I will not forgive myself if I don't ask you this question. First, another thing we're actually waiting for, I don't know why the MBS has not released that number to us. I think the last one I have is 2023, which is the National Living Standards Survey. That gives a clear picture of the quality of lives of Nigerians. If they bring that right now, I'm sure it's going to be very bad. So perhaps it's why it's good. But at least let's understand, because the reason why, whether it's good or bad, it's important we have these numbers. Melekiare was vilified and all of that, yes, with all the things that were said. But if there's anything I commend Melekiare was for the fact that at least we have numbers to speak to on how good or bad the NNPC was doing, because he started giving us audited reports. So we need those numbers. But where I'm going to, the last question will be on this is subnationals. Subnationals have not lived up to their bid. What can be done? Because every day we're bashing the president, the ministers, and all of that. But we have seen record FAC numbers. Record FAC numbers. In fact, initially, what the federal government used to do is to hold back so that there's not too much liquidity in the system. But we're not seeing it reflect. I don't know whether it's corruption or poor thinking. I don't know what it is in terms of, so maybe you help us what the subnationals can do in like 2 minutes. So for instance, a state like, with the greatest sense of respect, a state like Bayelsa State, for the longest time I have known, Bayelsa State has always been almost #1 on the most dependent state on FAC based on budget. Their data they release on how dependent each state is on FAC. Sometimes they're as high as 80-something, sometimes they're high as 90-something%.
Very low IGR.
Yeah, so yes, IGR is nothing to write home about. So, and it's not just Bayelsa. Over maybe almost 30 states of Nigeria have that problem. How do we resolve this?
Now, first of all,
you can do it in 2 minutes. I know the question was long.
Let me first speak to MBS, and I think you raise an important question. But also to balance it, the budget allocation to MBS is very low. If you truly want to have all the numbers, Nigerian governments, we need to allocate more funds to MBS so that we can now hold them responsible. But when you look at what is in the budget for MBS and the number they are presenting to sample the entire federation, you know that we have a lot to do. So that's why you have some international organization partner with them, and they say who pays the piper dictates the tone. Well, I'm not going to say more than that.
1 minute.
I'm not going to say more than that. Now to speak to the subnational, there are a lot to say, but perhaps I will pick one of the several point I should have said. Who can help us here is civil society. The way we have civil society concentrate on the Abuja and FCT and federal government, we need to start thinking, myself inclusive, we need to start thinking one state after the other or geopolitical zone after the other. We have a lot of states, about 36+1 that we are looking at. So it's not going to be easy to have the number. But JIT, incidentally, has found a session of these two, which I think they've carved the quality session that all of us can depend on. There is no need repeating what Onigbide is doing and start repeating it. They've done, so we can look at other parts and start bringing that to the force. And I must also give credit that there are a few of them that I've seen that are doing something good. Not all, at least about 7 of them that I've seen that are doing relatively well. But you see, if you don't ask questions, citizens at the subnational, they don't ask. And if they ask, they only say it in their local media. They have not elevated it to this national platform that we have. If you say it in Channel else say it, it's everywhere in Nigeria. Okay. So perhaps we need to look at how do we elevate those conversations from local level to a national level so that we can beam light on all of those.
I know that when I call places like Bayelsa and the rest, they will say restructure Nigeria and see whether Nigeria will not.
No, you start now. Let's see what you can do now.
Dr. Paul Alaji, always a delight to have you. It's an ongoing conversation. The tax year is almost upon us.
Yes.
And the elections are almost upon us. So we're going to be bringing you a lot to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Flavio.
We'll take a break. When we come back, Southwest governors met on Monday for what they call the DAWN, Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. The Commission Chairman will be joining us to bring us up to speed as to those far-reaching resolutions they made. In just a moment, stay with us.
Many thanks indeed for staying with us here on the program. Mr. Sheye Oyeleye is the Chairman, Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. He joins us virtually now from the ancient city of Ibadan. Thank you indeed for agreeing to talk to us. It's great to see you again. I mean, geographically, Oyo State boundaries Kwara State, and there have been reports of some sort of attacks as well, kidnap activities in Oyo State as well. Speak to that and speak to just how essential this meeting is, because it's beginning to sound to me like a tradition more than, you know, something that would yield results. Yes, Amoteco was founded or was formed as a result of these particular meetings. But again, I get to see that these governors somehow get to play some sort of politics with the issues agreed at your DAWN meeting. I remember in 2019, I covered one of your meetings in Ibadan as well. Some of the resolutions there, I've not seen some of them many years down the line.
Well, thank you. Good morning. I think I missed the early parts of the question because the volume was a bit low. But if I guessed right, you're trying to say hope that the resolutions from this meeting will not just be mere rhetorics. Well, the governors came together in Ibadan, as you rightly said, on Monday, as a result of the rising insecurity. And what the governors decided to do is to be proactive. One might, someone was asking me yesterday that, is it that they heard that something is about to happen and that's why they came together? I said, no. The reason we came together, the Southwest governors on Monday, is to review the situation, what is happening in their own sphere of influence, which is the western part of the country. And you could see that political considerations was put aside when they all came together. One of the things they've done successfully in this part of Nigeria, in Western Nigeria, is that when it comes to issue of common interest for the region, they ensure that political consideration is put in abeyance. So what they did on Monday was to review the situation and then try to see how we can upscale. Don't forget that whatever we try to do security-wise, we still operate within a federal structure. And unfortunately, our federal system still puts a bit of roadblocks on some of the things that they might have done, because you said you covered our meeting in 2019. Part of what was agreed before Amoteco took off was that states will buy drones, as an example. It was part of what they agreed then. But but me and you know that to even operate drones, the NSA, National Security Advisor, must give the approval. And part of what has hamstrung our states in providing that was the refusal of NSA over time to give the operating license to do drones. So it's not that they don't have the will, but at times it is our federal structure that has impeded some of the things they want to do. Look at even carrying guns as an example. Up till now, our Amoteco, which is 6 years old next year, the laws don't allow us to carry sophisticated weapons. But despite that, the governors came together on Monday and said, look, even if we are not going to carry guns, can we use technology to still protect our people? So and if you look at the communique some of the things they agreed on is the setting up of and increase the use of technology in protecting our people, not just relying on guns alone. So I don't want us to say that, maybe there's no political will. So our federal structure has put a lot of roadblocks along the way.
All right, let's talk about, it's a 10 paragraph or so, but of interest, which is of immediate importance, will be this forest surveillance. Maybe you help us understand how critical this is, because I'd like to read exactly what the governor said in the communique. The governors reaffirmed their collective commitment to reclaiming the forest and ensuring these spaces no longer serve as safe corridors for banditry, kidnapping, and any form of criminal activities. That means things are really bad, and this has to be as quickly as possible. You've maybe listed some kind of bottlenecks at the federal level. Pending when that is resolved, what is being muted as quick action to be able to protect the people and protect these forests from all of these elements that are bent on destabilizing the state and the region? In addition to that, the issue of illegal mining as well, I'd like you to speak to it.
Thank you. You can see that the Oyo State Governor, His Excellency Seyi Makinde, recently was in China, where he went to inspect the surveillance planes that Oyo State government bought. Now, the planes basically are going to be used to cover the forest areas of Oyo in particular. And if it covers Oyo, you can be assured that it will also maybe dovetail into covering parts of the forest in Ogun State. You see, over time, we've run away from the truth as a country. We all know what the problems are, but maybe because of the way we've been put together as a country, we are looking at sensibilities and trying not to do the right things. But unfortunately, the chickens are finally come home to roost, and we now see that the challenges we are facing needs every type of solution. And part of the solutions the governors are looking at is ensuring that our forests are free of miscreants and bandits, or whatever you want to call them. And the only way we can do this is to apply technology. Our forests are not as thick as the Amazon in Brazil, but you'll be surprised that even in the Amazon, they have surveillance planes and technology that allows them to see deep into the forest. So what our governors have decided that, look, we need to take the bull by the horn. We're not going to wait forever. I want to assume anyway that the NSA will not be putting roadblocks anymore on their part. But Oyo State has done that. The other states too have now resolved that they too will have to get some drones or any technology that they can apply to monitor the forest. And one of the things that we're also doing, if you look at Ekiti State, they even went as far as engaging agro rangers. The agro rangers are an Amotekun wing that operates in the Ekiti forest. And by and large, they have succeeded in reducing the issues of farmer herder crisis by ensuring that only those who need to operate, indeed, the late Akeredolu said that anyway, a few years ago, that, look, how many people live in the forest? You shouldn't even be living in the forest in the first place. So what we are trying to do now is that we know that the forest are there are quite a lot of untoward and people who you can't even verify what they're doing there. They live in there, and the states are saying, we'll work with the federal government. And that's why if you look at the communique, they said they welcome the setting up of the forest rangers by the federal government, which I'm sure is about to take off. And they then emphasized, and I don't want us to miss that in the communique, that the states will recruit for these federal forest guards. Why was that emphasized? You cannot go and bring someone from another part of the country to come and guard the forests in my own parts. And the reason is simple. If the local people will know their forest better than just trying to turn it into another arm of police. So they were very specific that yes, the support, the setting up of forest rangers, but the recruitment will be done by the states. Again, it's part of being proactive. We shouldn't wait until we have a big incident. Now, you also talked of mining, illegal mining. It is a big issue in Southwest. Apart from the fact that it's part of what is fueling this insecurity, because people are coming in from several parts of the world coming to do mining in the, don't forget that mining is under federal government, so they still have to go and get a license from the federal government. But more importantly, what we are now trying to do is say, look, you are even destroying the environment. You need to go to parts of Osun State in Ijesha land as an example and see the destruction there. So with the government of President Tinubu trying to put measures in place, the states here within their own power, again, I will go back to the federal structure that we operate, that grants so much powers to the federal government who are totally controlling even the mineral resources. But the little the states can do, they would do it to ensure that our people are safe and the environment is not further degraded.
Mr. Sheye, we are absolutely pressed for time. I'm glad you've mentioned Osun State, because people who come from Osun State are even concerned why their governor was not there at that very, very essential meeting. But we must leave it here and hope that their demands or their resolutions, they will indeed get to act on it, the call for state policing and all of that, and perhaps if that will put an end to these attacks. But must anchor here, Chairman Development Agenda for Western Nigeria, Mr. Sheye Oyeleye. Thank you indeed, as always, for talking to us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, and with that conversation, we round off the morning brief. Thank you indeed for being on the other side of things, and of course, always joining us here on the program. It's a bright day from Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga, and we're urging you to stick around here on Channels TV. Sunrise Daily is next.
I'm Jeffrey. I'll catch you at midday on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.